Alrighty, how's it going, everybody? So today I want to do a deck tech video based on the Scoia'tael control list that I put together, and I managed to hit top 10 with it both yesterday and today. Now, granted, it's still early in the season, so top 10 was only about 1750 or something like that, MMR, today, because it is still new in the season, so ratings are fluctuating quite quickly, and they're all a bit on the low side, as, you know, everyone's still climbing. But I had great success with this deck, and people in my Twitch chat on my stream, Joe Snow, Twitch TV/JoeSnow.com. Basically, yeah, everyone wanted to see a deck tech on the video to hear exactly why I made some of the choices I did. So here we are. So I'm going to start off with the basic premise of the deck. The whole plan of the deck is to take advantage of Ethne in round 3. Except in very rare situations, you're almost never burning Ethne in round 1 or round 2. And she's basically a 12 strength version of the old Aglace once you combine it with Saskia. And this power is just very swingy near the end of the game. Usually you're hitting a Scorch or something like Skellige Storm. You're putting 12 gold strength on the board and replaying the most powerful event that you have available at the time. And this is usually enough swing to win the game. As far as how we get there, we're going to just be playing, standard-ish Scoia'tael stuff in the deck. The Archers got a nice little buff since the closed beta, and these are a particularly powerful bronze unit. The rest of the bronze units in Scoia'tael I've been a little bit down on, to be honest. The Dwarves are okay. They're just a solid, 10-point bronze in most situations. And over here, we have our Hawker supports. These guys are mostly here to buff up Brienne and or Teruviel. As, much like things were in the closed beta. Unlike in the closed beta, however, you're not really saving this till the end of the game as often. A lot of times you're going to be forced into a spot, since some of your plays, like the supports, are very low tempo, you're going to be forced into a spot to use your Brienne early and or your Teruviel early to win round 1 or round 2, which is perfectly fine, as we have our Ethne, Saskia, and whatever powerful special card combination to lock out the game for us. If you can save it, sure, great. You're a step ahead of the game. If not, it's not a big deal. You can go ahead and burn it early if it's going to mean you're going to be able to win the round and maintain card advantage. Card advantage is of the utmost importance in this deck. And that's due to the fact that you want to let someone make their last play and then get them with the big Scorch, or let them make their last play and get them with a Venom, or whatever it may be. Usually Scorch is by far the most common target. You have Spotters, you have Nilfgaardian Knights, you have some targets out of monsters as well. You have the giant bears that some of the monster decks are playing that come from the special card. You also have bears in Skellige. There's just a ton of targets that you want to get them to play their big guy and then scorch them down. This deck is capable of 3 Scorches a game, so you can use them kind of liberally, and that's in part due to Sheru. So he can turn your worst, usually your most situational card in hand that isn't good for that situation, into another copy of Scorch, which is very, very powerful. Also, they're going to know that you have a Scorch after Sheru, so you want to make sure to use the Scorch that you've showed them, either by hand tracking or by having an animated version of Scorch and a non-animated version of Sheru, so that you can tell the difference. And then at that point, your opponent doesn't have the information of how many Scorches you still have access to. He's been quite powerful for me. To round out the golds, we have Ragnarok, just insanely powerful. This could possibly be an Isengrim, maybe to pull Teruviel. I'd like to have at least one other ambush target in the deck if I was going to go that route. But for right now, Ragnarok is just too powerful. It simply wins you around if they don't have an answer for it. And oftentimes they don't have an answer for it because you also have Skellige Storm. Skellige Storm is great. Most decks are playing 1 to 2 ways at absolute most to deal with opposing weather effects. So you can use one of these, whichever is going to be least powerful at the time, to bait out their clear effect and then just blast them with the other more powerful weather effect afterwards. This is particularly effective in round 3, but I use Skellige Storm plenty of times just for value early in the game to secure either round 1 or round 2. And then we have Ciri. She's just amazing. She's ridiculously powerful in this deck. She's one of the best cards in the game. She's your main card advantage tool, and yeah, I can't say anything about Ciri that hasn't already been said. She's great, and it's hard for me to find a deck that she doesn't belong in at this moment in time. The Teruviel, usually I wind up using Teruviel not as a main buff target. Sometimes I'll buff it once or twice, but I often use it to win round 1. That's because people aren't playing around Teruviel as much anymore, particularly a buff Teruviel. Sometimes you can throw their math off people will think that you're buffing a Brienne or something else. And meanwhile, it's a buff Cheruviel, which can cause you to like win a round and be up a card if they do bad math to get ahead at the end when you're sitting on a Cheruviel. It happens a lot more frequently than you would think. For the other silvers, we have Kieran. Just your standard lock piece. It's pretty good. Move opponent stuff into weather. Move your stuff out of weather. You need the lock. It's pretty solid at 8. It's one of the weaker silvers in the deck, but it's pretty much uncuttable. And that's in large part due to what's going on in the metagame. There are a ton of cow carcasses, and as you can see, this deck is pretty cold to cow carcass besides the Kieran. You really don't want to burn shackles on it. As well as the eggs out of monsters, but more importantly, the Mork Vargs and Olgiers that are running around everywhere. Excuse me. The shackles was a direct response to trying to win the fight over Mork Varg and Olgierd. Normally, you can't just jam your lock and expect it to work because they are running decoys and they are running donars and various ways to get around your lock. Your plan is basically to get them to pass and then play your lock piece after they have passed so they can't really interact with it, at which point they're sort of on Siegfried or bust. That being said, that's not the best matchup for this deck. Anything that's not Skellige, I feel like a slight favorite to a big favorite. Skellige decks in general range from bad to worse. Mork Varg being bad and Queensguard being worse. If you're playing against a lot of Queensguard in your rank, that's the one point I wouldn't recommend this deck, as Queensguard kind of just runs over you. It's near unwinnable. So Ida is the flex spot here. Right now, I have the Ida in because the fog's great, and I was running into a ton of monsters. The access to a 5th possible Clear Skies is just great against the Weather Monsters decks. This could easily be a Yavin to help reinforce your card advantage. I found Yavin to be significantly worse now that Scoia'tael do not have their faction ability any longer. So that's certainly something to consider, and that's the reason why it's Ida right now. But this slot has been going back and forth between Ida and Yavin, as well as a couple of other cards. But I like the Ida well enough for now. Skellige Storm. This is the other silver that we haven't talked about yet, and Skellige Storm is just fantastic. This is probably my new favorite card out of the new cards. It's just, well, effectively new cards, right? It's just very, very powerful. And it's also great in combination with Ragnarok for the reasons I talked about before, that you bait out their answer to weather, and then you can hit them again. So you really want 2 powerful weathers in a deck, not just 1, because then you're just sort of playing into their answer. But also, if you Ragnarok, a lot of times they're common answer decks that have that can move units around, or decks that have a lot of agile units. They're at that point going to go ahead and stack 1 row to minimize the damage from Ragnarok, and that's when you can really get them with the Skellige Storm. So it's a nice little 1-2 punch, and I found it very, very powerful. This is one of the ways you do beat Skellige, is getting a very good Skellige Storm going against them in the front row usually. It's one of your outs to that type of situation. The one of Dolblathana Archer over here. This is very swappable. This is just kind of my flavor of the moment. I've gone back and forth between Hawker Smugglers and a couple other cards in this slot. It's fine. Decks are getting a little bit more swarmy. It's a decent open against John Calviet when they spawn the 3 little golems. It's not a bad open against that. So the card's been fine. It's okay. You know, I can take it or leave it. The deck is still working, but for right now, I think it's proving its spot over any of the other bronze units. We also have Scorch. Obviously, we talked a lot about Scorch. You have to put a Scorch in your deck. And yeah, this card is what the entire deck is based around. You just want to Scorch them again, and then Scorch them one more time. It's very good against the Impera Brigades that are running around. It's very good against the Henselt deck with all their giant Reavers, that kind of thing. Scorch is still an amazing card. It's great in Scoia'tael, and the fact that I can have access to 3 copies of it over the course of a game is kind of nutty, and that's sort of the win condition of this deck. Just get some stuff down, Scorch your guys, and then I have 12 Strength of Gold at the end. One of the big round 3 weaknesses are things that can't be Scorched, like Tibor is a very powerful card against our deck. So the Tibor versions of Nilfgaard are significantly more difficult to beat than the non-Tibor versions, because a 25 Strength Gold that we can't interact with is just very problematic for this deck. That being said, let's get to the rest of the removal speed over here. Right now I'm on 1 Manticore Venom. I think it's fine. It's decent in the Scoia'tael Mirror. You can often get 9 to 11 value out of it. It's pretty rare you get the full 12 if you're not like super far behind, but just getting 9 to 11 value out of a bronze is fine. It's good at killing the bears in Skellige that are going to try and wound all your guys as they come into play. It's got a fair amount of uses, and it's just powerful enough. Also, sometimes you don't want to flashback a Scorch in round 3. Sometimes you get into a spot where you had to deploy your Brayhan earlier in the round for one reason or another, and she's big, so you don't want to Scorch your own guys. This is another viable removal spell. They can hit for up to 12 points, creating a 24-point swing between Ethne Saskia, who is fantastic, by the way. Saskia is just incredibly powerful and should be in every Scoia'tael deck. And you can use the Venom to not Scorch yourself while still getting a nice power swing off of that. The Shackles, I'm not 100% sold on yet. This is one of the newest additions into the deck. Like I said before, this is mostly a response to the Morkvarg thing going on. The Build a Giant Big Morkvarg, and Morky Mork just wins entire rounds by himself. This is in response to that. I didn't want to use another silver slot on something like a Cleaver. We have Ida instead, so I thought that the Shackles was the next best answer. It's still difficult to win that fight, but having 2 lock pieces gives you a fighting chance at least, so you're not just out in the cold. Clear Skies are in here for multiple reasons. It's a 3-of, and I would not change that at all, even without Elven Mercenaries. It's a 3-of for 2 reasons. One, weather's everywhere. Even non-weather decks are often playing 1-of Ragnarok or 1-of Drought. So this is something you really want to keep an eye on, and if you don't have an answer to one of those cards, you're just going to lose the round. That's how it goes. You either answer the card, or you die. So I want a lot of possible answers to the cards. The other thing is, as I was talking about earlier, I'm not super high on a lot of the bronzes in Scoia'tael right now. I'm kind of picking the corners to get to the maximum, to the amount that I need, 15. And this sort of lets me cheat on that count because these can effectively function as bronze units, copies of the better ones, right? Because I can just fish them out with this. Granted, it's less consistent as I don't know which one I'm going to find a large majority of the time, but all in all, it's great as a rally. Clear Skies is probably more relevant to the game than ever, so I think it's in a great spot, and that's not something I would change about the deck. So like I said, this deck's been very good against monsters, very good against Nilfgaard in the non-Tibor matchups. If they have a Tibor, if they're more on the Milgard kind of plan, you're a little worse there, but I still think you're a small favorite. The only real natural predator of this deck right now is Skellige. The giant Morkvarg is a huge problem. It turns all of your Scorches into meaningless nonsense that hits them for 2 strength because he just keeps coming back and back and back, and it's just a terrible matchup for you. I don't think there's any deck that doesn't have any bad matchups at the moment, and this one has taken me, like I said, to top 10 multiple days, so yeah, liking it. A bunch of users in my Twitch chat have been playing the deck the last couple of days to very good results as well, so I've gotten great feedback from others and myself from playing the deck. What I would say about the deck is, similar to the older versions of Scoia'tael Control, you are going to be planning multiple turns in advance. It's not the easiest deck in the world to just pick up and play to great results. So it's something you likely will have to practice with. That being said, I think it's one of the better decks in the new meta. It's going to continue going through some changes, swapping out a card here, swapping out a card there, but the general shell of the deck I think is very powerful, and I think what it's doing, like the concept of it as a deck, is good enough to be top tier at the moment. So I just want to thank you guys for stopping by, checking out the Deck Tech video. If you like the content, please hit the subscribe button. This is going to be a more normal thing. I'm going to be releasing more and more videos as I build different decks and keep climbing the ladder with them. So you can look forward to more of these in the future. And I will also have a link to the deck list on GwentDB, which I'll be posting shortly after making this video. Just so you can check it out in still frame form if you want to try and build it yourself. If you are going to, good luck. Thanks for stopping by and hope you enjoyed. Have a good one, guys, and good luck on the ladder.